Hey, I'm AB Bhakta, and this is Fan Reactions on Fan Media Network. And with me again today are three diehard Cowboys fans, Kip, Rashad, and Mary Alex. All three of them not too happy right now with their Cowboys. Dak Prescott out for the season with a lower leg injury. And in steps Andy Dalton to start against the Cardinals. We're starting to see much of the same issues as we did last week. Dalton wasn't looking good by any means. Zeke fumbled the ball twice in the first half, and the O-line had just an absolutely rough day. And, one more thing, the coaching. Mike McCarthy under some fire amongst Cowboys fans and maybe some players too. We'll get to that later during the show. But first, Rashad, what's your overall reaction to the Cowboys game against the Cardinals?
It was pretty terrible. Zeke, being the best player on the team, he cannot turn the ball over twice in 14 carries. Like 14, he had seven touches and 14 attempts on offense, and then he fumbled twice. We really can't deal with that. And Andy Dalton is not as advertised. I thought he had a little bit of juice in him left. I just don't see it personally. I just don't see what he has.
Speaking of Andy Dalton there, he was a three-time Pro Bowler who led the Bengals to playoffs in each of his first 5 years in the league. And he has with him one of the best running backs in the NFL, Ezekiel Elliott, like you said, Rashad. Kip, what's going through your head when you're seeing the offense perform the way they are?
I mean, it was just pretty abysmal, man. I mean, I agree with Rashad. I think Ezekiel Elliott has got to take a lot of the blame for that. You just cannot turn over the ball like that. He has more fumbles so far through 6 games than he's had at any point in his career. It's 4 or 5 full seasons up to this point. Andy Dalton, certainly not much to write home about either. But, I'll give him a little bit of a pass because the offensive line is terrible. I'd like to see how he does when we're not fumbling the ball every other play and when he gets a little bit of protection. I mean, I really wasn't expecting too much from this game on Monday night, but it was rough to watch, man. And what I think is crazy is we're probably still going to make the playoffs by winning the NFC East. I'd rather just bomb, get some good draft picks, and build up some talent at this point. This does not look like nearly as talented of a roster as we thought it would be.
Speaking of talented, Kip, you and your Zoom backgrounds. Explain that one for us quickly.
I think it speaks for itself, guys. I think it's pretty obvious the message I'm trying to send here.
And speaking of message there, Zeke himself saying, "This one is on me," speaking of the loss to the Cardinals. He said, "This one is on me, and I need to be better for this team." Mary Alex, what are your impressions and reactions of seeing Zeke struggle this way with a team led by Andy Dalton at the helm?
Well, this isn't the first time I've seen him struggle this season. He struggled in a few games prior, as well as the rest of the team. So it's totally not on him, but I do agree with Zeke that he does need to step it up since he has been playing physically starting in the game, especially longer than Andy Dalton has. This being Andy Dalton's first game since Dak Prescott got hurt. He needs to step up and he needs to be a leader. He needs to make plays. He needs to do his job, which is to score touchdowns. And he needs to help the offense kind of rally and get out of this rut that they're in.
Yeah, now let's move on to the coaching. Earlier this week it was reported that multiple Cowboys players anonymously called out the team's coaching staff for being totally unprepared. And head coach Mike McCarthy responded with saying, "The anonymous is something we don't want to recognize, but it's important to recognize anything and everything for a teachable moment." Now it seems the Cowboys have a lot to learn from teachable moments out on the field. But Rashad, what are your thoughts on the Cowboys coaching we're seeing so far?
I really think that the coach has really lost the locker room at this moment since there's leaking. Only way you can leak something is if you want it out there. So I feel like he's lost the players, and that's never a good thing. But we are still in first place in the division, which is great. So that is something to hold on to. But yeah, I think he's losing in the locker room.
And Mary Alex, we go back to you. How do you feel about coaches being blamed by players for the Cowboys' struggles overall?
I think that says a lot about the coaching staff and not only what goes on game day, but what goes on off the field in the locker room. from what I see, neither from the coaches or the coaching staff or the players, I don't see any morale. I don't see really a connection between the players itself. It's kind of like everybody's just lost, almost as if they're kind of ready for something new. They're ready for a new staff. They're ready for just something more to kind of boost them up. I think that with players even saying anything negative about their coach in the first place just kind of shows the relationship that the coach has with the players. And that's something that is extremely important, honestly, to win games. I mean, if you don't want to play for the coach that you have, then you're not going to play your best. And I think that is just something that is extremely important and that they need to figure it out, or the Cowboys, it's just going to go down here from there.
Well, and with that, finally to you, Kip, what are your thoughts on this conversation surrounding the Cowboys coaching staff?
Well, I understand that injuries have hit us really hard this year. And, on the one hand, you want to kind of make accommodation for that because we're playing with, a taped together offensive line. Obviously, our starting quarterback's out. So those are things that you don't really have any control of. But beyond that, this is just not really so far the product that I thought we were getting with this new coaching staff. I was kind of expecting a little bit more of a disciplinarian, a little bit more hands-on. And when I watch these games, I'm seeing very careless turnovers. I'm seeing a whole lot of penalties. And I'm not saying it looked like anybody's being held accountable for that on the sidelines. So that's what kind of bothers me at this point. And to Rashad's point, the mere fact that players are coming forward anonymously, that is a big red flag. I mean, you would hope that even if the team was underperforming, that you would keep it in-house and that there would be some sort of unity amongst teammates and whatnot. And it seems like that is just not what's happening. I realize that we've had really bad luck this year in terms of injuries and things like that, but it does seem like something is just off in that locker room. And this is just not what I was expecting when we hired Mike McCarthy in the spring.
Well, and through all those struggles, the Cowboys are 2-4 on the season. And if there are any positives Cowboys fans want to take away through Week 6, you've all mentioned it already, is that their team still sits in first place in this horrendous yet oddly competitive NFC East division. We'll have more fan reactions coming up soon. And again, thank you, Kip, Rashad, and Mary Alex, for sharing your reactions on Fan Media. To host a fan show or appear as a fan on a fan show, simply create a profile on Fan Media's iOS app or website. Select your teams and make a short intro video on your phone. Show hosts, reporters, former players, and superfans can use our Get Verified feature and make an intro video as well, and our mobile newsroom staff will reach out.